Hi, boys and girls. Today we're going to learn how to measure different ways. So we are going to measure using length, height, capacity, and weight. So what are those things? Length, height, capacity, and weight. Those are big words. So length tells us how long or short something is. Height tells us how tall or short something is. Capacity tells us how much a container can hold. And weight tells us how heavy or light something is. So let's go through these things together. It says how to measure. So when I measure, I start from one end and I go to the other, just like this arrow is showing you. So I'm going to use the crayons that I have on my screen here to show you how I'm going to measure the pencil and the shoe. So I'm going to start my crayons at the end of my pencil. I'm going to line it up. See how I lined up the end of my pencil and the end of my crayon? So there's one crayon. Then I'm going to line up my next crayon so that it is right at the tip of that crayon. So 2. And let's move another crayon. 3. And let's do another one. Right there. So my pencil is about 3 and a little more than a half crayons long. So 1, 2, 3, and almost this whole pencil. So almost 4 pencils long. Now let's measure my shoe. So my shoe, let's see, measure, make sure that my crayon starts at the end of my shoe. Scoot this over just a little bit. There we go. Now it's lined up with the back of my shoe. So that's a 1. And let's line up this crayon. Almost 2. My shoe's a little bit shorter than 2 crayons. So my pencil was 1, 2, 3, and almost 4. And my shoe was 2 crayons long. Now let's look at height. Height tells us how tall or short something is. So we start at the bottom, like my arrow shows, and go to the top. So again, I'm going to use my crayons, and I'm going to measure my tree and my building. So let's drag this crayon over. Remember, we want to line it up with the bottom of whatever we're measuring. So I need to go down just a little bit. Oh, move the wrong thing. There we go. All right, so there is my crayon and my tree. So there's 1. Let me grab another crayon. And 2. So my tree is about 2 crayons tall. Now let's measure my building. So again, I'm going to line it up at the bottom of my building. Let's go down just a little bit. There we go. 1, 2, 3. So my building is about 3 crayons tall. So you will notice I use crayons to measure my length and I use crayons to measure my height. Do we normally use crayons to measure? No, we don't use crayons to measure. We normally use things like rulers or a measuring tape. But we are learning how to measure using things called non-standard units of measurements. So crayons can be used. You could use paper clips. You could use markers. You could use Legos. You can use all kinds of things to measure. So length and height is what we're going to work on this week. We'll learn our other 2 ways to measure next week.